Hello there, final ghouls and boils. Merry Christmas. This week we are going into the all-time classic, the 1974 Bob Clark film, Black Christmas. But first, we're going to talk about a bunch of other horror-related shit. And with me, as always, is my compadre, back in Jack Campisi himself.
Ho, ho, ho. How you doing?
I'm doing great because Hunter Shea is not here this week.
That was the early Christmas present I had for you. No Hunter tonight.
I'm so happy. This is the best.
Deck the halls.
All right, so we got a lot of news to go through this week, but before we do, anything new you want to throw in?
Well, the gang in the chat room has the drinking game terms.
Of course.
So I don't know what they're going to do with the Hunter words, but I'll throw them out there. So my words are early, sorority, cemetery, and I guess that's with a C or an S. Your words are scream, Billy, and influence. Hunter's words are moaner, zone, and unicorn.
Unicorn?
Yeah, so. Oh, I know why. So maybe those could be wild card terms. There's also bonus terms of slasher and night.
All right.
I have a feeling if people are actually drinking to these words, there could be some drunk people by the end of this.
We're going to get sued one of these times.
Yeah. Hey, we do not endorse this. We promote designated drivers and responsible drinking and
yes, direct lawsuits to everyone in the chat on Tuesday nights. So what do we got in the news? I saw Spencer was passing you a lot of interesting stuff.
So I have news, and then Spencer, our buddy, has been firing off news like Walter Cronkite on steroids. So I'm just going to go through a whole bunch of news. Let's start with some of Spencer's news. Did you watch The Punisher yet, season 1?
I'm about 8 episodes in, so getting close.
Okay, well, they've renewed it for season 2, so we're going to get more Punisher.
Awesome.
So, spoiler alert, he doesn't die at the end.
What?
What do you think so far?
I'm liking it. It hasn't been as violent so far as the Daredevil season was, but everybody keeps telling me the end of this gets absolutely crazy. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, the last few episodes are awesome.
I haven't felt the drag so far in this season that I've felt in other Marvel shows, so I'm happy about that too.
I agree. They could have probably done an episode or two less and still, but this one feels like less filler than most of the other Marvel shows.
Daredevil season 1 and I think Jessica Jones, man, there was just like 4 episodes in there. I'm like, this does not need to be here.
And all of Iron Fist.
I didn't even watch it.
Another big news for folks on Netflix, Ash versus Evil Dead. I guess season 1 and 2 are now on Netflix.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Thank you, Spencer.
I have not watched season 2 yet, so I was waiting for it to finish to binge, and then I just never binged it.
So there is a show. What a pleasant surprise that show was.
Hell yeah.
Because you had that remake of Evil Dead that, while a lot of people liked it, I thought it was just okay, but didn't really do much for me. And then at the end of after the credits, you hear Ash. And then that led to this TV show. And the TV show is like everything you ever wanted in Evil Dead.
It's amazing. The first season I just loved. And everyone has been telling me the second season is better than the first. Do you think so?
I think they're both great. I see it as continuing and not dropping off. So they're not afraid to go places. I'm not sure if Lucy Lawless is still on the show or not, though. I heard she might have left.
Oh, are they doing a 3rd season?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice.
All right, so there is a remake of Escape from New York coming. Did you know that?
No. I thought they canned that years ago when it was supposed to be Gerard Butler.
Robert Rodriguez is going to direct it, which I guess if you're going to pick somebody for that material, I guess he could give it that grindhouse feel.
I'm not going to lie. My biggest concern with it isn't so much the direction the film could take as how do you replace Kurt Russell? That's my biggest issue.
They just need to reinvent the whole thing.
You know, almost like you said, the Evil Dead remake, they might have to go in that direction, just completely change who the hero is so that you don't just do a terrible imitation.
Make Ronda Rousey Snake Plissken, because they would talk about her in the Roadhouse remake, and she'd be terrible to take Patrick Swayze's place, but maybe she could too.
That Roadhouse movie got shit canned.
The good news on this Escape from New York remake is that I guess John Carpenter read the script and gave it a thumbs up. So I don't know what that's worth.
Executive producer now as well.
That could just be his way of getting a paycheck, but they have his approval. So if you're going to be optimistic, that there's a reason for it. Now, we like to talk about Alien and what was it? Alien Covenant, and what was the other one? What was the one before that?
God damn. Wow, my brain's not working.
I know. Starts with a P.
Yes.
Prometheus.
Yes. Sorry.
It's like $50,000 pyramid. So a lot of people thought that there was not going to be any more Alien movies because the last one did so bad. Well, Ridley Scott is saying that there's going to be more Alien movies, but they're not. They're going to get rid of the xenomorphs and spend more time with the artificial intelligence. So he said, here's a quote. I think what we have to do is gradually drift away from the alien stuff. People say you need more Alien, but you need more face pulling, you need more chest bursting. So I put a lot of that in Covenant, and it fitted nicely. But I think if you go again, you need to start finding another solution that's more interesting. I think AI is becoming much more dangerous and therefore more interesting. So
don't make it an Alien movie. Make a new movie about AI.
That's code for we want to keep using Michael Fassbender because he sells tickets.
You know, I kind of feel bad for that guy because Prometheus came out and everyone trashed it. And now everyone's going back and watching it and they're all actually really appreciating it. So then everyone was pissed that Alien Covenant was a crap sequel to Prometheus. So it's like the guy can't win, but this does not sound like a good decision to me.
I'm sort of done with the whole thing. I don't think they need to make more Alien movies. I don't think they need to make more Prometheus. I think they've done it. Move on to something else.
Sounds good to me.
So we earlier a few episodes ago we were talking about how there were when it came out, they were saying that they were looking at doing a remake of Pet Sematary.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's happening. So there's actually a release date for the movie now. It's going to be April 19th of 2019.
Really? Did they say who's doing it?
The guys who did Starry Eyes, Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmer, are going to
have my
direct.
interest.
Yeah. And some other names of people that I don't know.
I think we talked about this before.
We did. Once we said Starry Eyes, we were both like, okay.
Yeah. And I think you and I both agreed that seems like a movie that's a good remake kind of movie. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't terrible. They could do more with it. Sounds interesting to me.
Yeah. So when we get to what we watched, I'm going to talk a little bit about remakes. So I'll go back to this when we get to that, to that part. That, I believe, is all the news I have.
Okay. Well, then let's
for the night.
Oh, somewhere Sheridan's drinking, listening. Let's jump into some horror curation if you're ready.
I am ready. Why don't you go first?
All right. So the first thing I watched was a movie called Interior that was on Shudder, I believe. 2004. You want to talk about a small movie? This thing, it was essentially one guy in an apartment, and he's, I guess, some kind of a small filmmaker or wants to be a filmmaker, and he's hired by his ex-girlfriend to see if her house is haunted while she and her family go on vacation. So he comes in with a bunch of cameras, tries to catch some EVPs, and he's posting on Facebook as he does it. This is the kind of movie I feel like I've seen a million of, but they're usually found footage and they're usually terrible. This was not. This had some pretty dang good, intense scenes in it. I liked particularly the ending goes really bonkers. There's one part in it that really pulled me out. It's like an hour and 40-minute kaleidoscope sequence for like no reason that I didn't really understand. But other than that, this was a solid little movie, and I'd never heard of it. I just was flipping through Shudder. I mean, it only has 93 ratings on IMDb, for crying out loud. So almost no one's seen it. It's not the greatest thing you'll ever see, but it's 80 minutes. It's one guy.
Bingo.
Carries it pretty decently. So I would recommend this. Interior on Shudder. I then watched a documentary called VHS Massacre, Cult Films, and the Decline of Physical Media. This was on Prime. They had some really great interviews in it. They had, was it Lloyd Kaufman? They had Joe Bob Riggs.
Your man.
Yeah, my buddy, Joe Bob. They had a bunch of great interviews who were basically just talking about what's kind of happened to independent film studios and filmmakers and things like that as physical media has gone down, streaming's come up, piracy, all that. And that stuff is good. My biggest issue with this is, though, just jump to these, it seems like, I think it was like 4 or 5 guys maybe who made this, and they seem to have a podcast about horror movies and things, and they decided to make a documentary. So it'd be like if the 3 of us morons decided to make one. My biggest issue was they would just cut away to them going to like a Goodwill and looking through the VHS bin for movies. And I'm like, what the hell does this have to do with the fall of physical media? Like, it just, and then they kept mentioning this one guy, I guess one of them made a movie or one of their friends made a movie, and they just kept bringing this movie up over and over. And it was like, so there's some good stuff in it, and I liked it. I'm not trying to shit on it too much or anything, but I'm not sure if they were first-time documentary filmmakers, but it kind of felt like that. It was just kind of veered off course there.
That's funny you say that, because when we get to what I did, I watched a fan-made documentary too. So I'll have some similar.
Okay, yeah. So it's cool. It's worth it to see some of the interviews. I mean, if you want to hear about the makings of trauma films and what Joe Bob Briggs thinks of all this stuff, it's definitely worth it to watch. And it's free, so, it's not like you're out any money.
There's some times where I'm just not in the mood to sit through a movie, to pay attention. And the documentary, it's exactly why I watched the one that I watched, is I'm like, whether it's I'm tired, I need to do something or I'm just like, I don't have the attention span for this, but I can put in a documentary and it'll scratch my itch to watch something without the commitment that a movie takes.
I'm the exact same way. And I even do the same thing with commentaries on some of my DVDs or Blu-rays. I like hearing how the movie's made, but I don't have to pay attention to the story and kind of go in and out, whatever.
I love commentaries. Let me tell you something. I listen to the Lord of the Rings movies. There's like the actors, and then there's one with like Peter Jackson and his wife and the directors. So you get 3 like 3.5 hour movies. I watched like 2 commentaries on each one of those. It was so fascinating.
Wow.
As to, because I love those books and the decisions they made, from changes from the book or casting and all this. It was fascinating. A really good commentary to watch is the Blair Witch Project.
I think I watched that a long time ago.
It's pretty cool.
I feel like I did. That was Eduardo Sanchez, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many times did you watch the commentaries for The Hobbit?
I never even watch those on cable. Like usually like a movie comes out and you're like, oh, I'll watch it again when it comes on cable. I saw part of like the first one and I was like, I can't even sit through this again. I hated those movies.
So did I. I'm actually going through, as I have time, and listening to, have you ever seen the movie Samurai Cop?
No.
It's one of the best bad movies ever. And I recently found out that Joe Bob Briggs actually did a commentary for it when it first came out on DVD. Oh my God, it's so funny. I haven't finished it yet, but it is freaking hysterical.
I've thought about that for us doing commentaries on movies.
Yeah, we should consider it sometime. Get a couple beers and just record us shitting on some of these. Could be funny. Okay, I also watched something I try to watch every year around this time, Scrooged, the Richard Donner, Bill Murray Christmas movie from 1988. I own a physical copy of this, so I don't know if you can find it free somewhere or not. But I just love this movie so much. I've talked to a few people who don't like it that much, and I wonder if they either haven't seen it in a while or maybe they're not Bill Murray fans. but
You know, I
goddamn,
haven't seen it in a long time, so I'm kind of like I remember thinking it was okay, but it's one of those movies I have like checked off as I need to revisit it because I bet I just was like not in the right frame of mind when I watched it
it's so
20 years ago.
funny. It's so funny, and it is really a great Christmas movie. The reason I brought it up is there are a couple horror elements towards the end that are really well done with the Ghosts of Christmas Future. Some really neat stuff in there. But if you're a Bill Murray fan, I mean, it's got Bobcat Goldthwait in it. It's just, this is a great movie. I laugh at it every freaking time. I know exactly what's going to happen, but when the Ghost of Christmas Present shows up and starts hitting him with the toaster and kicking him in the crotch, I mean, it's the best. It's one of my favorites.
Let me tell you a Bill Murray Christmas thing not to watch. A Very Murray Christmas. It was on Netflix a couple of years ago.
I don't even know if I've heard of that.
It's a recent thing he did. And me and my nephew sat down like Christmas Eve. Bill Murray Christmas.
Was it like his whole family?
It's like him at a hotel during a snowstorm, and they get stranded in the hotel, and there's other people there and stuff, and there's songs and
oh.
I was so excited for it, and then I was like, you know, you're like halfway through it, and you're like, oh no, I really wanted this to be good, and I don't even want to finish it. Yeah.
Oh, come on, Bill.
So go back to Scrooged, or do what I do, just watch Caddyshack again.
Oh yeah, I adore Caddyshack. But the last monologue of Scrooged is also one of my favorite pieces of filmmaking in general, let alone for a Christmas movie, because he talks right to the camera in character, but he's talking right to the camera, which in major features doesn't happen. Like you don't look at the lens, you know, and he delivers this monologue. And then at the end, as the credits start, he completely breaks the fourth wall and starts talking to the cinema audience. And I always like that too. It's just something you don't see. So always a good time.
That's what would have made Linus's speech in A Charlie Brown Christmas better if he had broken the fourth wall after his big speech.
Right. Just start talking to his animators.
Yeah.
All right. This one is for you, Josh, on Twitter, who has been riding my ass like Zorro for the last couple weeks to watch The First Power, a 1990 horror thriller film from Robert Reshnikoff, I guess, starring Lou Diamond Phillips. This is, I had such a great feeling of nostalgia watching this. I'd never even heard of it. I guess I should go over what it's about first, but the description is a detective in Los Angeles and a female psychic must stop a demonic serial killer who has the powers of resurrection, teleportation, and possession. Basically, have you seen the Denzel Washington movie, The Fallen? Or Fallen. I think it's just called Fallen.
Yeah, I actually think I've seen this movie.
Okay, well, if you've seen Fallen, you've seen a better version of this movie. It's the same thing.
I think I remember that movie now you're talking, the Lou Diamond Phillips movie.
It's a complete exploitation film straight out of the late 80s, early 90s. It has that look. It has that feel. You know, the stuntman doesn't really look like Lou Diamond Phillips. You see a dummy on top of a car that's
awesome.
Just like flapping around. And I love that stuff. I love exploitation films, and this really feels like one of those. I loved it. There are a couple things that are just preposterous. At one point, the killer grabs a ceiling fan off the ceiling and then somehow turns it on so it's running, even though he just ripped it out of the ceiling, and is chasing someone down the hall with it.
Excellent.
And Lou Diamond Phillips as well. And I'm like, it's a ceiling fan. It's not going to hurt. What's it going to sting? Like when the guy had the knife, you were fighting him. Now he has a ceiling fan.
Dust on the backside of it, though, that'll just kill your sinuses.
Your allergies. That could be pretty rough. There's some great stunt work in this. People jumping off buildings, guys set on fire, all the stuff you used to see in movies that you really don't see anymore. I loved it. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. I ended up buying this on Amazon. I couldn't really find it anywhere. But if you like these kinds of films, totally worth it. I dug the hell out of it. So if you people have any other 80s or 90s films like this, please send them my way. I love this shit. I saw The Hidden last week, The First Power this week, and I am on a nostalgia hype train, and I'm loving it. So
it's funny you say Lou Diamond Phillips, because I've heard you and Hunter talk about Longmire,
Mhm.
So I started watching that on Netflix.
Oh, well, I'm done. So, what are you thinking of Longmire so far?
I'm like 3 episodes in. So far, so good. Couple of things were a little exaggerated, but at the same time, I want to wear a cowboy hat and a long coat now.
Well, it's important to remember that Longmire started on AMC, so the quality of filmmaking and storytelling goes up when it switched over to Netflix around season 3 or 4.
Oh,
So
really?
the episodes get a little longer. The stories are told better. There's more violence. There's some sex scenes or whatever. So yeah,
I'll just tell you because it's not really much of a spoiler. The most unrealistic thing that happened is Katie Sackhoff is in a strip club and she's a cop and she does like a little half-ass strip dance to get some guys to give her information. That I
I
was
don't
just
even remember
like no
that.
cop would ever do that. I was like, but
Oh well,
it
that's a
was
great
TV
example of what I'm talking about.
it
That's
was TV
ridiculous.
show funny. But at the same time, though, there's like 63 episodes, so I'm looking forward this to be that. Oh, okay, I'm having dinner. I'll pop in a Longmire. It's one of those like, what do I need? I have something to fill my gaps. So I'm looking forward to that. And
It's good
Lou
stuff.
Diamond Phillips, Lil Bamba himself.
I love how Lou Diamond Phillips does not shorten his words at all. He doesn't use like uh God, well, my brain is really not working. I didn't have dinner.
Your Santa hat's too tight.
Yeah, he doesn't say like it's. He says it is. He says every word. So it's brilliant.
He's data.
Yes, yes, he is.
All right. So is that everything you watched?
I'm done.
All right. So I did not watch a ton, but I did watch some good stuff. So I'm going to start with the documentary I watched because a few Monster Men episodes ago, we did a thing about shark movies. And as you probably know, I freaking love Jaws. It's one of my favorite movies. And Hunter has only seen it a couple of times. And I was like, really? He goes, how many times have you seen Jaws? And I was like, I don't know,
50.
hundreds. I was like, it's on TV so often. I go, I have the VHS, the DVD, the Blu-ray, and then it's on all the time. So if you count, like, I come in halfway and watch it, or what, like, I just can't count. But I've seen it a billion times. Like, so there's this documentary on, I think it's from Prime, called Jaws Fanatics, and it's a fan-made documentary by this guy who has a Facebook page called Jaws Fanatics. So when you said the thing earlier about some horror fans making a documentary, I've often thought about making some kind of short film about what we do, and maybe like go to Chiller or one of the things. And so it's always in the back of my head. And when I watched this Jaws Fanatics, basically the guy, he crowdsourced it. So he had Jaws fans from all over the world film themselves answering these questions and stuff in whatever background they wanted, talking about their love. So they all talk about the first time they saw it, how it affected their life, their collections of memorabilia and everything like that. So for a Jaws schmuck like me, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely watching this. And I got to say, if you are a Jaws fanatic, you will appreciate this. If you're kind of a casual Jaws person, it's 2 hours long and you're going to run out of gas pretty quickly. They could have used an editor. Like this would have made a good hour-long thing or something like that. But at the same time, it was one of those, like, if you're not just sitting there solely paying attention to it, you're folding laundry or reading a book or something like that, it's good background. But it's very interesting to see the impact that movie had on people and how it's passed on. It's almost like your love of a sports team. Your cousin liked this team, now you like this team and you pass it on. Or Jaws is kind of the same thing. These guys are talking about, it's my grandfather's favorite movie, my dad's favorite movie, it's mine. Or these kids are like, I was 5 years old and I found the book and I started reading, and my parents are like, what the hell are you reading that for? And my dad's like, he's 5 years old, he's reading a book, let him go. So again, I don't know if I would recommend this for everybody, but if you're Jaws crazy like I am, at least check out part of it.
Where was this?
It's on Amazon Prime, I think.
Okay.
But definitely, as I watched it, the part of me who the filmmaker in me was going, yeah, they could have cut this. It felt like the labor of love. We were like, oh, I got to get everything in, and there was nobody to say, you know what, we should cut out some of the fat on it.
Gotcha.
But still, it's great to see some of the freaking memorabilia these people have. You're like, oh, that's the greatest. You know, one guy's got an actual piece of wood from the orca. I'm like, oh,
wow,
I want one of those.
Seriously.
So that's so if we ever make a documentary and and it's running long, remind me.
A Final Guys documentary.
Yeah. So the remake that I was talking before. When you ask me what some of my favorite horror movies are, if the top one isn't The Thing, it's in the top 5 because it's always like a changing. You know, it's hard to say what your absolute favorite is, but The Thing is a masterpiece. I had not seen The Thing from Another World, the original movie, since I was a kid, and I don't even know if I saw the whole movie when I was a kid. It may have been like I turned it on one afternoon and saw part of it.
I'm sure I haven't seen it since I was a teenager.
So it was the snow night over the weekend that I was like, you know what? This is a perfect night. I was actually going to watch the regular Thing. And I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to go watch the original. And it's a good movie. And I know a lot of people really love that movie a lot. But as I was watching it, all I kept thinking was, man, if you're in film school, you should take The Thing from Another World and The Thing. And this is the case study for how to do a remake. It's a pretty good movie for its time. There's not a ton happens action-wise in the first 2/3 of the movie, but a lot of interesting stuff happens. They find like the flying saucer under the ice. The Thing in this movie does not shapeshift. It's more of an organic thing. There's more humor in it, probably. So John Carpenter took the premise of this and just like took the essence of it and then added this whole different dimension to the Thing and made a completely different movie that has its roots in this original. And so they both are like standalone movies that they feel like they're relatives. Like, okay, this is the grandfather and this is the father. And so very enjoyable. Definitely happy I went back and finally watched the whole thing, start to finish, and I'm up to date on it now. But again, as I'm watching it, and I'm thinking about how bad the next one was, that remake or whatever they were calling it, prequel that came out,
yeah.
and it's like everything wrong with a remake, like was in that movie. Too much CG, just being derivative of the last one. You know, like just forgettable.
You know, I actually liked what they did with some of the story stuff in that remake, particularly the end when they diverged the story. I thought, oh, that's brilliant. But man, that CG, I couldn't get past it. I just could not get past it.
Yeah.
And particularly when you find out that they filmed it with real animatronics and things first, and the studio said they didn't like it, so then they did it all with CG afterwards.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was a movie came out, I think they put it up on Netflix or something, where the guys who made the animatronics for it put it in the movie, and you're watching, you're like, yeah, it's not the best, but it would have looked a million times better than the CG they did in the crappy remake, so or prequel or whatever it was.
One of the great things about A Thing from Another World from the 50s is James Arness is the Thing. So you don't see him that often, but he's like a big, almost Frankenstein-looking monster. And like when he first thaws out, he runs outside, and then they have a long shot of him in the distance trashing the sled dogs.
I forgot about that.
And then every once in a while, like somebody opens the door, and he's got the big like Star Trek alien head. Then he like comes through the door, and somebody's like shooting at him and stuff like that. And you know, James Arness was in a TV show called How the West Was Won when he was older. It was like a 70s or 80s show. And he was like the grizzled cowboy guy. And so when I found it, like that was the guy in the alien costume, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. But he's a big dude.
Yeah, I do remember him from the movie. It's been a long time, man. I should go back and rewatch it too.
Yeah, definitely worth. And again, when they're mining movies to remake, I'm like, why are you making another Halloween? We've got that, and it's good, and it's not that old. Go back to the 50s, like the Body Snatchers. That was a good one to remake. You know, they had the 50s one and they had the 70s one.
And then the 90s one, and then the 2000s one.
Yeah. I want to revisit the 90s one because sweet Gabrielle Anwar is in it.
I barely remember it. I don't remember liking it that much, but I should.
I didn't like it either, but I'm curious because I don't remember.
Where did you find the Thing from Another Planet?
I paid to watch it, I think, on Amazon.
Okay.
It was like $3 or $4. I figured if I looked on YouTube or something, I might have found it for free, but
yeah.
So with that, that's what I watched.
All right. If somebody can get me the name of the movie that came out of the remake of The Thing, where they used all the effects they made for The Thing, and somebody get me that. It takes place on a ship somewhere. I just can't remember the name of it. All right. So now that we've got done telling you what you should and should not watch this week, let's jump into a little Black Christmas.
Yeah.
So this Bob Clark fella, he knew how to make Christmas movies, apparently. He did this little thing called Black Christmas and this other little movie that they show, 47, 48 times every year on Christmas. You know what I'm talking about?
It's a Wonderful Life.
A Christmas Story.
Oh, that's right. I knew.
So they're not so similar, but
A Christmas Story is one of my favorite movies of all time. So
you have Bob Clark to thank. All right. So you were telling me before that you had not seen Black Christmas too often. Do you want to give us a quick rundown of it since you just watched it again?
Yeah. So this takes place in a sorority house, and it's the holiday season, and a bunch of girls and their, I guess, sorority mother and various boyfriends are coming and going, and there is a slasher who kind of breaks into the house and starts killing people. And
that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Some of the notable things about this is that Margot Kidder of Lois Lane and Amityville Horror fame is in this, and one of my all-time favorites, John Saxon.
The man is in this.
The man. And so when I say I haven't watched this in a long time, back in the 80s, my best friend growing up, Tom Grasso, and I would watch horror. We'd go to the video store, get horror movies, and John Saxon is in like the Mount Rushmore of horror movie guys. There was like Christopher George, John Saxon, and a few other of those character actor guys who were in everything. And so like John Saxon was like man of the year for us. So we would go seek out John Saxon movies, or they would just find us. Cause like, holy crap, he's in this one too.
The guy fought Bruce Lee, for crying out loud. He was in everything.
And he was in the $6 Million Man. He was like the fembot guy.
It's the best.
He's the sheriff in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's in so much shit. I'm sure if I looked at his list right now, I'd just be tripped down memory lane.
Yeah, we should do like a Jackson tribute show one day.
We could totally do that. And same with guy from Night of the Creeps.
Oh yeah, he was the one I was thinking of.
Damn it, we're terrible tonight.
McClure, Doug McClure.
Normally we just rattle these off, and tonight I'm
no, not Doug. Doug McClure is another one, but the guy in Night of the Creeps is the guy that we saw at the me and Hunter saw at the Tom. Is it Thomas something?
Oh God, I'm sure we're getting crushed in the chat. Anyway, someone will give it to us. So, is Black Christmas the earliest slasher you've ever seen? It's 1974. I mean, this predates Halloween.
You know, in reading about this, that they were saying that this is one of the first, if not the first, slasher movie.
was wondering if there were maybe some giallos or something that, because I'm not big into the Italian horror scene, but this is the first American one I can think of that it's the first one I can really think of. I don't know if it's maybe the first good one or big one or popular one, but this movie, and you can see it, all the tropes that come into slasher films, the sorority house, the who's the killer, all this stuff. I mean, it all comes right back to Black Christmas.
The thing that I can't believe is the movie When a Stranger Calls. I mean, is basically like the guy was like, "Oh, let's just remake Black Christmas without Christmas."
Yep, that's exactly it.
And nobody says a word. So like when you're like, I had heard somewhere where like if there had been a sequel to this, it would have been Halloween.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but there was a remake of it called When a Stranger Calls.
Man, I haven't seen that in a while. So this movie is something that I go back to every year if I can. I'm sure, and I'm going to keep doing that for a while because I love it. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. Everybody's like, "What the hell's Black Christmas?" when I tell them I watch it every year. It does feel like something that's kind of fallen through the cracks. That a lot of horror fanatics, they don't talk about this movie too much. You said you hadn't seen it in a while. What did you think going back and watching it again?
I agree and I disagree on the falling through the cracks because you're right. You don't hear a lot of people talk about it much. However, I almost in every conversation when people start talking about Christmas horror movies, everybody's like, well, Black Christmas is the best.
Yeah, there's like two good ones. So
yeah, so when you go through the list, it's always like, and then they qualify it, not the remake.
Which I have not seen, so I can't say much, but I haven't seen
it. So when I watched this, it was right in the prime video rental times of my life. So I got like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and any of the other Santa Claus ones that were in the video store. And so I was never a huge Christmas horror fan. But I remember this one being the most remarkable out of all of them because it was the Christmas part was sort of like incidental. Like if they could have taken any time of year, they just dressed it up with Christmas. But really, you've got a lot of great stuff going on. And so while I haven't watched it in a long time, it's just because I'm not drawn to watching Christmas horror movies that often.
Sure.
And also I didn't, before Amazon and Netflix were here, that you could just push a button and watch it anytime you want. It was like, I'm going to go to the video store. Black Christmas is just one of those ones. If I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, there's the Christmas horror movies. I never thought about revisiting it. Now that like it, you've got a Netflix or a Shudder, I'm like, oh, this seems like a good one to pop in every so often. But the reason I think it's up there is because it is, if it's not the first slasher movie, it's one of the first ones. And it's got stuff that the other horror movies don't have. Like the cops in this movie are always joking around with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
they give that one poor guy so much shit at the counter.
Yeah. So there's like, it's not just like a by the numbers movie. They've got this personality underneath it. And then you've got Margot Kidder just like being herself.
She's playing Lois Lane.
Yeah. She's like drinking and smoking the whole time.
We were talking about this a little bit before we started. I was asking you if she just plays herself because she's the same in this as she is as Lois Lane. She just smokes and is abrasive and just an asshole.
Yeah, I totally forgot she was in this movie. I remember that John Saxon was in it. So I was like, oh, we're gonna watch Black Christmas. John Saxon. I'm like, oh my god, that's right. Margot Kidder's in this. And then I was thinking, like, man, back in the day, she was like considered a total hottie. And if it, like in the Amityville Horror, it was probably like her prime. Mm-hmm. So just think about that. Like, she went on to have a pretty big career, but like Jamie Lee Curtis, like, is known as like the scream queen, and like Margot Kidder was doing it before she was. But actually, she's technically not the final girl; it's the other girl,
right?
Who is the most annoying. I hate her voice.
Speaking of voices, one of my favorite parts of this movie is the phone calls that come in. They are done so well. Like they're so creepy. The sound design is so bizarre. You can't understand what the hell the guy's saying half the time. He's doing a kid's voice and saying all this weird, creepy shit. And I can only imagine 43 years ago now what people thought seeing that. I don't know that I'd ever seen something like that in a movie before. It was intense.
And if you're a younger person watching this movie and you didn't grow up with like rotary phones and call waiting and all that stuff, you don't realize that phone etiquette was different back then. Like if you picked up the phone and there wasn't somebody on the other end, you would go like, hello, hello, hello? There's nobody there. Why isn't some hello? Like it was, you made such a bigger deal. You weren't just like, okay, and hung up.
We had to get your fat ass up and walk the whole way across the house and running before they stop, before they hang up.
And like half of this movie is the cops trying to trace the call.
I love that. I love that.
And yet they actually have the guy at the phone company like running down hallways and plugging things in. You're like, well, you never actually see them. How do you trace a call? Like he's actually tracing.
That's why back in those old movies, they're like, it's going to take us 45 seconds or a minute to trace it because there's some yokel running around in this giant room trying to find the number. That's great. That's what was the other scene I was going to mention that I absolutely love is seeing them physically trace a call in the 70s. It's the best.
And I love how the cops are like, okay, I know it's disturbing, but you got to keep this guy on the phone longer.
Right. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that clerk that you already brought up. Just the way they're always calling him like names and suggesting how dumb he is and all this stuff. It really takes a character that should be a throwaway guy that should have nothing to do with the movie and makes him kind of one of the more central people.
Margot Kidder's the one who gives him the phone number with fellatio.
That's right.
And then John Saxon's partner laughs at that for like a half hour.
On the other end of the spectrum, from the great comedy bit there, is the weirdo boyfriend who is one of these intense artists. You know, he's just
moody
obsessed
piano
with,
player.
Yeah. And that dude does a great job at being a creepy asshole. Like when he destroys his piano, and it's just what a weirdo. And what an interesting way, as we're talking about this being one of the first slashers, how they set him up to be the fall guy. And
he's a suspect.
Yeah. It's just done really, really well.
The other thing is they never really explain the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a good move on their part.
Yeah. I think we'll give a little spoiler tag here in a minute, just in case somebody hasn't seen this.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I love that too, the way they handle that whole thing. And again, because they're not working off tropes here, they're creating them, right? So like Scream knows, okay, you got to set up all these false fall guys and, you know, okay, we got to make it look like him. We got to make... There was nothing like this before. So they just kind of, I mean, I guess you had like Agatha Christie novels or something, but not really in the horror genre. And in the 70s, it was like Christopher Lee vampire movies and stuff, you know? You didn't really see things like this.
Yeah, let's go to spoilers.
All right. If you haven't seen Black Christmas, you're 43 years too late. But here's your warning. Yes, I 100% agree on the killer. When you think everything's good, she survived, and then the camera slowly pans up right to the attic or whatever, and you see they're still up there, still being creepy and weird. And
well, the phone rings too.
And then the phone rings.
So so this is what's hilarious about this movie. The cops trace the call, get out of the house. The killer's in the house. The calls are coming from the house. So now the alibi that the guy had that the boyfriend had that he wasn't the killer was that he was in the house. And now that makes him a suspect because the calls came from the house. So then she's hiding in the basement. He arrives, looks in the window, breaks in, and she kills him. Case closed. They sedate her and leave her in the house where all this happened. And everybody goes, and there's a guard at the door, and then they pan up, and the killer is still in the attic with the dead bodies. He's hiding 50 feet away from everybody. Like, they did not bother to search the rest of the house.
Yep, got him there. It's just like those old westerns when a woman would be freaking out, they just give her laudanum or whatever, just like sedate her. So they do to her, they just leave her there. It's horrible.
And it's kind of cool because they're panning back, and you see the window, and you see the cop at the door, and then you hear the phone ringing, and so you're like, okay.
Such a great ending.
I forget the lead girl's name, but she had that like, actress voice. Oh, that was the thing that was she was really grating on me throughout the whole thing.
Olivia Hussey was the actress's name. Hussey. Yeah, played Jess. Yeah, she just her dealings with this idiot boyfriend. Again, it's just such a crazy dynamic. This movie.
Oh, the pregnancy.
Oh man. Oh yeah, and the phone calls coming in about all that stuff. And as far as I'm thinking here, they never give any indication who the killer is, right? It could just be some complete stranger.
Yeah, because he just calls himself Billy.
Right, just some nutcase who's living in the attic of the sorority house storing bodies.
At the beginning of the movie, they show him break into the house.
So yeah, it's like, who the hell is he?
And then, so the reason that one of Hunter's words was unicorn is because perhaps the best kill of the movie is Margot Kidder is like sleeping off her binge, and he kills her with this glass unicorn. And then in a very like Argento like scene, he like poses her and the other girl like in the bedroom or something like that, in like this work of art, of gothic horror art. That is a pretty cool shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool shots in this,
and the killing of with the unicorn is awesome. Like that's where you're like, yes, this is.
Again, I guess that's something that became a slasher trope, right? You have to have interesting kills. It can't just be he shoots her or he strangles her. It's got to be something different every time.
Yeah, and so let's see. He kills the house mother with a hook. He throws it at her and then pulls her up. He kills the first girl. Does he stab her and then puts a bag over her head?
I think so.
And she's like the poster child. So she's in the window. They keep coming back to her.
Because it looks disturbing. It's a great
That's image. The funny thing is, when they show the house at the end, she's like lit up. So basically the cops are there. And all you have to do is like look upstairs and be like, oh, who's in the attic?
Oh, man. Well, is there anything else you want to add about Black Christmas?
I'm going to say this. I have never actually seen the remake. And while I hear it's bad, I think I'm going to watch it this week just to see it.
Just for notes?
Unless if it's free somewhere. I know that what's her name? Michelle Trachtenberg is in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I love the movie so much. When I saw there's a remake, I never wanted to, but I was kind of thinking about it this week too, checking it out finally.
I think just for curiosity's sake, and because we do a horror podcast, we should probably be up to date on crap like this. And I'm probably going to watch it and be like, why did I just waste another 2 hours of my life on this crap?
That's the whole thing. I'm like, I should watch it, but God, I know I'm going to be pissed.
You know what it is, though? The burden we carry for doing this is every week now you have to watch some stuff. So we're all like, wow, there's 63 episodes of Longmire. I would like to blast through those. Oh, wait, I got to watch a couple of horror movies so I can talk about them. I'm watching Black Christmas remake right now. What am I doing with my life? But then when you get here and you're just talking about it, you're laughing. You're like, oh, that's right. I love bad movies. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, that's why I don't have The Punisher finished yet. I'm like, oh, I got to get in 3 or 4 horror movies this week, so I have something to talk about. But yeah, it is the thing that when I'm watching it, I'm like, Jesus Christ. But then I know I'm going to have a good time talking about it later on.
It's like when I watched that Day of the Dead remake, and I'm like, this movie sucks, but I'm glad that I've seen it now so that I can be the one to tell other people that it sucks.
You talking about it Actually, I added it to my list on Prime now because I just have to see it after listening to you talk about it. So, all right. So we're both going to waste some time this week watching the Black Christmas remake. So it sounds like you would definitely recommend this to people, right?
Oh, definitely. I'm glad I caught up with this. Between this and the thing from another world, like I'm really glad that I have revisited some stuff that was back, and now it's got me thinking. There's an old horror comedy called Student Bodies that,
Yeah.
like there's a guy who calls the killer, and he's like, that totally is parodying this. That I'm like, I got to go back and watch Student Bodies again. So that might be on my watch list this week.
I haven't seen that in so long, man. I barely remember that movie.
Horsehead bookends. Horsehead bookends.
So yes, I'm with you. This is worth owning. If you've never seen it, you don't have to worry about should I rent it and maybe just buy it. It's amazing. And for a movie that's 43 years old, it's actually paced really well. Like a lot of times you go back and you watch a movie from the 70s and earlier, and it's like, God damn, they could have cut a half hour out of this. I don't really feel like that with this movie. I feel like it moves pretty quickly. There aren't a lot of lulls. 100% recommended by me.
No, it ages well because you definitely feel like you're watching a movie from the 70s, but it's not one that's like aged so badly that you're like, I'm having trouble getting through this. You're like, you can appreciate the movie for when it was made and how much impact it actually had. And
Yeah.
look, there's some really good kills and some really funny moments in it. So it's
there's some creepy stuff in it still. So
and if you want to celebrate the birth of Jesus, I can't imagine a better thing to do than watch Black Christmas.
There was a movie I talked about a couple weeks ago, Play Misty for Me, a Clint Eastwood thriller movie that had a half an hour in the middle where I had to watch him go to the beach and go to a concert and walk with the woman through the woods. And I'm like, what the hell is this? You're just padding runtime. Black Christmas does not have that. So yay.
Yay.
All right, Jackie baby, what are we watching next week? Are you excited?
Well, there's a little independent movie coming out that I think we might want to check out.
I'm curious if I can find it around me or not in the theater.
I know we were trying to find the Shape of Water, and we couldn't find it in a theater anywhere near us. So eventually we'll catch up with that movie. But instead, I'm going to see if I can find this movie, The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I think I saw a trailer for that.
It's an art film, I think.
Okay. It looked a little low budget.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to expect, but I'll check it out. The chick who was in the Blues Brothers, she's in this. It's like her last movie, Carrie Fisher.
Oh, she's done a couple of things I've seen, I think.
Yeah, she was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Forgot about that.
She plays a nun.
Oh. So yes, people, wow, we rode that for a couple minutes, actually. The new Star Wars is out, so of course we're going to go see it.
And Hunter's going to hate us for this because
he's going to bitch and piss and moan. So if any of you are going to see it, hit him up on Twitter, tell him he sucks.
Well, at least we're picking a movie that we can find in a theater.
What is the deal with The Shape of Water? I think Spencer, someone
it's about the creature for the Black Lagoon. I love it so much.
No, I mean, like, when the hell does it actually come out?
It came out. It's only playing like in certain theaters. I think it might be playing one night around here, but it's like Thursday night, which may be the night I'm at Jedi.
Okay, because I think someone had told me, I think someone on Twitter said it expands in the end of December, like statewide.
I hope so. It's getting tremendous reviews. It actually doesn't look like a horror movie.
It doesn't. It looks like a romance almost, but
it's basically Beauty and the Beast with the creature from the Black Lagoon. But
yeah, well, that's 2 weekends now. We've tried to go see it, and it's just not out. So we're moving on.
Yeah, moving on. The Last Jedi. The trick's going to be, can I find a theater where I can get a seat?
Honestly, that's my biggest concern. I'm looking to rent recliners in my one theater nearby, probably on Wednesday if I can. So otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to get in to see it.
If I can't see it over the weekend, it might be one of those I'm sick on Monday.
Go to the noon. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, people. Enjoy Star Wars. We'll catch you here next week to talk a little Luke Skywalker and God knows whatever else.
Merry Black Christmas.
Merry Black Christmas. Please, everybody, if you haven't seen Black Christmas, go check it out. I want to know what you think. If you can, Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. We really need ratings on iTunes. We haven't had any for a while, so if you could help us out, we'd really appreciate it. And check out all the movie reviews that are going up on finalguys.com. Anything else, Jack?
That's it for me. And for Hunter Shea, good night.
See you guys.